Hey everyone, Nelly B here and welcome back to Hidden Gems of Toco. And I have to have my phone for this one because I want to be able to read out everything here about our lovely guest, Dinelle Spring-Burke. So, you are a library technician.
Yes, I am.
At Toco Secondary School.
That's
you
correct.
also teach English. You own a small business. You're secretary to the village council. You worked at Matlock Community College, where you mothered underprivileged youth. You're currently doing a hygiene drive supporting young females, as well as supporting a lot of youth in terms of opportunities and meals. Worked during COVID, as in walking to work, even though you became a young mom, started a seasoning business. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And there's so much more, but outside of all of that, who is Dinelle Spring-Burke?
Dinelle Spring-Burke is a very straightforward, energetic, open-minded, very reserved, very, very talkative. I am a great conversationalist. But I am also, I know that I was born to do great things and I believe in living my life to the fullest of my potential.
I love it. I think that's a lesson in itself, right there, being able to, live your life to the best of your ability.
Yes.
Actually agree. So, you're a mom. Tell me about your family. Tell me about how many kids? 1, 10, 12? How many kids we talking about?
I have one 20-year-old. Yes, I do. And
Wow.
she's at her second year at the University of the Southern Caribbean. I am a happily married wife. I do my side business and still have time for development of spirituality, and I appreciate, selective times where I do solidarity. I just be by myself and solitude. I just like being by myself at times, or we may go hiking, nature, just to distract you, to help you to take it down, to reflect, to be able to reboot, to regroup, to go again.
I love that. What do you think is your biggest or most major accomplishment as a mother?
Seeing my daughter grow to this present age, and she is on her path to fulfilling her dreams. Because my grandmother, my father's grandmother, she was illiterate. So that meant a lot to especially the girls within our family, because she used her thumb. That was my motivation for education.
Right.
She used her thumb on his birth certificate. She came from St. Vincent and they settled here. So that was my motivation, to be able to be educated and to have things to your name and make a name for yourself. And seeing my daughter being able to do just that and continue beyond where I would have stopped, I really, really would say that was one of my greatest inspirations.
And as we mentioned earlier, talking about the fact that while, yes, you would have mothered your own biological daughter, you've also, had that motherly role to many others. What motivates you to go beyond, just your own family unit to be that type of role for so many others?
Growing up in Sanssouci, we would not have had much. We grew up in a small wooden home, and I recall that there were times when things would have been tight. And there would be the senior women within the community, Miss Elaine, Miss Yvonne, and they would send bread, they would send food. And even going to school at Toco Secondary, we had a lot of teachers leaving all the time. So some teachers would take us home and they would give us extra classes during the Easter, the July, August preparation into the new form. So that would have helped me to give back just the same way, because I had that. Our parents were unable to pay for extra classes for us. So with that, I was happy that I could be able to do the same for students who were in similar position. They have the potential, but their parents, some of them come from low or no economic homes, income homes. So with that, is a challenge, especially in these rural and remote parts. So giving back is always my thing.
Would you say, what, in terms of giving back, we don't have all the resources.
No,
what do you think is your biggest challenge in wanting to give back?
Well, what I do most of the times is partner with persons. So when I took out my car, I spoke to the agent at Lifestyle Motors and I told them, well, this is what I wanted to get some assistance with. And persons were always excited to assist the students within these parts. And I keep networking with persons along the way. So when we wanted to do World Day of Peace, we partnered with the forestry gang at Grand River and we got trees and we planted trees and flowering plants, and so we would always partner with persons. Even when we did the RBC Young Leaders competition back in 2016, 2017, we also partnered with various agencies because even getting the students to Port of Spain, we needed money for that. So with that, we would always partner with agencies that were always willing to assist so that we would be able to have success in most of the initiatives.
Right, right. Now, flipping to, the fact that you yourself, were a relatively young mother, do you think that the area, Toco, is there that type of support system for young mothers in the area?
I would say 50-50 because everybody would have known my parents. So I would be able to get persons to assist me. But there are persons who may not have that support, and sometimes they would not get the support I would
Right.
have gotten. So with that, I would say according to the area the young mothers are from. And that's why I try to use my influence to assist other young mothers and helping them. Or even there was a student last year, she got pregnant prior to CXC. And I tried my best where I could help, and she was still successful in English language, and she got 6 subjects, and she was able to. Well, she's still prepping to go into studying further, but she's giving the child a little time. So because we need to support each other. Sometimes it goes beyond money. It
Fully
goes
agree.
beyond money. So when persons see the assistance and they see the need and they see that we at least we made the effort, some persons just come in because they would have more resources than we would and they would do the needful.
Right, right. So, if you were to, let's say, pitch to an organization that is not based in the Toco area to come in to basically create a space for young people to be productive, like what type of space would you envision for young persons?
I would envision a space that would assist young people in being able to develop a skill so that they would be able to create a small industry post-secondary education. I would also want them to learn survival, like being able to learn financial literacy along those lines, because a lot of times young people, even young people within homes where parents have been able to pursue their degrees, parents have not given the time to the development of their children. I took a very long while to complete my degree because I took time off from school to be able to nurture my daughter and to help her in developing. So sometimes you'd see children within the education system that they would come in and they would still have deficiencies because they lack that foundation, because the parents don't have the time. Not that the parents are unable to teach, but because of the demands of working and studying. It gave them that, the parents would get that ability to go forward, but the child would have lost out. My daughter started doing CXC at Form 2. So that required me to be actively parenting her, bringing her along the way so that she could be able to stand today and gain opportunities as she goes along.
Now, as you mentioned parenting, what would you consider your parenting style with your daughter growing up?
My parenting style would have been, I would have been like a supportive parent because I came from a religious family, so that we were really strict. So I tried to relax it a little so that it would minimize anxiety with her. And little girls developing and emotions and hormones and all that, you wanted to be sure that she felt relaxed and comfortable and her self confidence to develop as she went by. She plays netball. She is a socialite, but I wanted that for her. So,
Right.
but what happened is that at the age of 3, doctors picked up a heart murmur. So for 14 years, we spent at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex Children's Cardio Clinic. So it was a lot because we had limitations, despite she wanting to be a normal child and play, and we had doctor's visits and do's and don'ts that we had to abide by. Even simple things like that would not be related to her heart, we had to get permission from doctors. So, we would always pay attention to her, whether or not. So sometimes she might have felt we were too overprotective, but it was because of the seriousness of her condition.
I could definitely understand that. And as you talked about your parenting style, one of the, I don't want to call it a trend per se, but one of the latest things in terms of parenting is a lot of talk about the gentle parenting. And what are your general thoughts on the concept of gentle parenting?
Gentle parenting will be based on the culture that the child would have been a part of. But our children, at least where my daughter was concerned, I brought her up to express herself within the confines of respect. So I know before the older folks would not appreciate children being straightforward or say exactly how they feel. If she wanted to put on this color dress as opposed to which one, I would give her those little opportunities. But before, the folks of old time would have been, no, you're doing exactly as I say. But I felt that I wanted to give her that. So gentle parenting would be subjective based on the conditions at the time, because it's not always applicable, because sometimes we have our children who they are adventurous. So I could say for my daughter, the ocean was my issue. If I said stay right there, she would want to be out at breakers.
Oh boy.
I cannot swim. So with that, gentle parenting will go out the door there, because it's just about your adrenaline, your fear of her going out, and next thing she'll drown. So gentle parenting is according to the context.
Fair enough, fair enough. In terms of your own upbringing, though, so like which part of I mean, we call all of this Toco, but so which part exactly were you born and grew up in, and what do you consider, like I've been asking, what do you consider about, the area that is like magical or makes it home for you?
I was born and bred right here in Big Bay, Sanssouci. Sanssouci is an estate, for those who know. And the older heads, my grandmother, my great grandmother actually, she was once one of the secretaries for the estate. So they would oversee the entire thing and take rents and all that. So I'm basically a product of the estate. My getaway is to the end of the beach on the rocks. I have grown there. I would always lose myself there. I would take a book there and I would just sit there and I would read for hours. The ocean, although I cannot swim, I like sitting and listening to the ocean. My getaway is right home.
It's right home. So that for you, that's where your magic lies.
I love home.
I love that. And as we wrap up, as this is we're talking about mothers and Mother's Day, you yourself were a relatively young mother.
Yeah.
We have a lot of young mothers, trying to balance everything.
It's a lot.
What are your words of wisdom to those who are trying to juggle the many hats that mothers wear?
Well, first of all, I must say that I am grateful for my support system. I had my mom, my aunt, my grandmother had 23 kids. So
Oof.
with that, yeah, we had a big family that somebody would be able to be a mentor or support. So for that, I must say I'm grateful for my mom and my aunts, and then for the mature women within the community that guided me even during pregnancy and into motherhood. So I am grateful for that support. Other than that, for the young ladies, it is a challenge, but it's not impossible. I remembered putting my daughter in a stroller and putting my seasoning bottles in a market bag and walking through the community and pushing stroller and selling my seasoning. And people would say, but you had all your subjects on. But at the time, I was creating my own way. And I would say, focus on your dreams and continue to live to your fullest potential, and don't let the negativity get to you.
Honest, one thing before we go, as we touched on the business, as you talked about your seasoning, tell me about that. What's going on with that? How it started? What was the motivation?
Well, my green bottled seasoning started back in 2004, about 4 months after my daughter was born, and I decided I always loved making seasoning. I like seasoned food. So with that, I always liked making seasoning. And I would make seasoning and send for family abroad as well. So I started bottling it and selling it. And then I had to stop because the demand for motherhood was getting a lot. When my daughter started doing food and nutrition at CXC level, there were certain ingredients that were not easily available. And then when we did find them in Chinese stores or at markets, I decided, I could do this. I started looking at the researching ways of being able to get it done. And I converted my green bottled seasoning recipe into a dried seasoning recipe.
Oh.
So with that, I have seasoning powder. So it's a combination of all the local herbs that we use in our everyday cooking. And it has no salt, no MSG. So the name of my business is now Straight Outta Sanssouci, Country Herbs, Teas and Things. Because I love tea. I love herbal tea. I love bush tea.
I'm also a fan.
Yes,
I absolutely love Straight Outta Sanssouci.
Yes, so Straight Outta, as in OUTT.
And you said you started this 4 months after your daughter
initially,
was born.
and then back in COVID, I resumed.
So what would you say to any young mothers who are in a position that they just had a baby, but they have that spirit for entrepreneurship and they want to do something, although they just had a baby? Because there are a lot of young mothers and not so young mothers who are in that position where they want to do something, but what would your word be to them?
With the advent of social media, information is at our fingertips in learning techniques, in learning new skills or information that could help you to develop a skill. So I would say to each new mother, if you feel that you are ready, because I know when the baby is born, sometimes there are immediate needs, but as soon as you could settle, you should do it. Don't wait until it is too late. Don't wait until the baby is too old. My thing was I wanted to develop my own dreams and my own goals without having to live through my daughter. So I would say the same for you. You live your life. Don't wait for the baby to become 18 years old before you could pick up your life. You live your life.
Gotcha. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing everything else that comes straight out of Sanssouci.
Thank you so very much.